Welcome back to Screamfish Radio. I'm so glad you could join us this week as we are talking about Scream, the 2022 reboot of the franchise that has been around for almost 30 years at this point. And I'm so glad to have my horror experts return. Catherine Erskine and Alan Chabot, I'm so glad that have you both back. Thank you so much.
Glad to be back.
Yes, definitely glad to be back.
Well, I appreciate it because, as you both may know, horror is not my thing. I think I should get a t-shirt. That's my horror is not my thing.
It would suit you well.
With gremlins on it. Yes.
Maybe Jigsaw on the back.
It'll be a t-shirt that says, "I would not like to play a game." Is what it'll
No, thank
and
you.
the loser is.
I do not like scary movies.
Steve knows absolutely nothing.
Well, I'm excited about this. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Scream picks up 25 years later after a streak of brutal murders shocked the quiet town of Woodsboro, California, where a new killer has donned the Ghostface mask and begins targeting a group of teenagers to resurrect secrets from the town's deadly past. As always, this podcast is rated S for spoilers, but let's just have at it. What do you two think of Scream?
Kat, you can go first.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because I feel like it's fresh for you. It's fresh for me too, but I mean,
It's
for you,
fresh.
I feel like you're ready.
The trauma is real.
Judging by your commentary, I know already what you're going to say, so go ahead.
There's anger, there's sadness, there's a joy. Oscar worthy. Yeah, I mean, I think we all know Scream is one of the more iconic horror movie franchises. It really went in there with a meta and kind of almost mocking itself in some respects. I spent the whole weekend watching the originals, and I forgot that there was a giant jump between 2000 and 2011 with the last two movies. So that was interesting to reminisce about, but this was something that I had memorized in my teen years. So it was really nostalgic and full of happiness for me to watch those in getting up to this. And something that I didn't do this time that I usually do, and I'm not against doing, I just decided wasn't going to happen, is I did not watch a trailer. I did not listen to anything about the movie because I was so scared that I was going to hate it.
Oh, I was so scared I wouldn't watch a trailer.
I watched the whole movie and didn't blink, but the trailer. But I was so nervous because you can really screw up one of these movies. It has such a nostalgia value, like any horror movie franchise. But this one I felt was pinnacle for me because it was literally as I was growing up with these movies as a teenager. So I mean, Neve Campbell. It's Neve Campbell, right?
Yeah, it's Neve Campbell.
Yeah. Iconic. But for me, Courtney Cox, this is her most iconic movie. When she comes on in the first Scream and she's wearing that lime green pantsuit dress and she's doing her thing as that cocky reporter. I was if Courtney Cox is not in this, I am shutting it off. If Neve Campbell's not in this, I am shutting it off. If David Arquette is not in this, it is over. So I didn't even look it up. So it was exciting going into it, but nerve-wracking. But I felt right away, they kind of stuck with the nostalgia and they weren't changing it too much because they knew that if they did, there would be hell to pay. From everyone, which they mentioned in the movie, which kind of the Screams prior to this had this really cool mini meta. It was almost they knew and they were putting in these things the rules for being in a horror movie and all of these other the stab movies being a giant part of it. They knew what they were doing when I think Wes Craven did all of them
except for this one.
Well, R.I.P. I would hope his ghost is not directing movies. Rest, buddy. But like he knew what he was doing and made it relatable and scary and very much pop culture, I feel like. So going in, I felt it right away. And I was like, okay, they're really giving us like from the beginning, this is how the movie's starting. And I realized sometimes I'm like, God, I hate millennials. Like the murders. The one girl, I was like, when I first saw her, I was like, yeah, you're definitely gonna be in on this. But watching it and getting those cameos was so good. I feel like there's so much I could say about it, but I just felt good watching it. I feel like it respected the genre. And even though it got a little too meta, where it was talking about like, you know, how the girl who's now like the film geek was going on and on about how like the reboot, or I don't know what she called it.
Threequel.
The re-quel.
Yeah, the re-quel.
Re-quel, yeah.
Which I love that term, actually. I thought that was a really interesting, because I mean, that's so many franchises are doing
re-quel or rec-roll.
Re-quel.
Yeah, re-quel, sequel, re-quel. But like her speaking onto that was like, okay, like I see what you're doing. This is good, and it's true. You can't mess around with this stuff. But then it went a little bit like longer than I thought, and then at the end, I love that they took it back to the original house. But at the end, when like the millennial murderers were like doing their spiel, I was like, okay, like we get it. But I really was sad when Dewey died. Like I know someone had to go, and I didn't want it to be anyone else, but I also didn't want it to be him. But he died in a very good way, I think, for his character, so I was okay with it. And I liked the little twist of, I didn't think I would, but I liked the twist of the half sister being, what's his name's daughter?
Billy's.
I was like, okay, I like this. I could deal with this, unless she's the killer, then I hate it. And so it was really well done that way too. And then there were so many scenes, like when she goes in to get beer in the basement, and she gets followed in, and they have that little moment. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like the actual garage from the first movie. This is the actual living room from the first movie. So nostalgia vibes were high, expectations were met, and Courtney Cox is still a bad. But it was funny because Courtney Cox doesn't look like she's changed very much, but Neve Campbell has aged, and that's what Botox does.
Oh, I would disagree.
Neve Campbell is like...
that.
I would say Courtney Cox looks like she's had work done and having a hard time keeping up with it. And then Neve Campbell looks like she didn't even touch her face.
Gosh, I feel like she aged, but maybe that's just me because I grew with her.
They're both beautiful.
They are. But I was just like, I feel like this is
right.
Like I feel like this is a good representation of like Botox versus natural aging, you know? But
yeah, it's true. You're right. Yeah, Neve Campbell, you know, natural aging, you know, Courtney Cox, Botox, you know, it's evident. I'm sorry, you can see it in the cheeks. Her forehead doesn't move.
You can see it everywhere, and you could see it with her anywhere. But I was so happy she was back, and then her Dewey, and I was like, the only thing that kind of like, I don't know, it was the whole stab movies and them wanting to have their own movies. Like millennials, I don't know, millennials watch this, but like millennials are pretty narcissistic. Like they need their moment in the sun, and like sometimes.
Okay, I have to ask a question since you brought it up, because I as we were talking before, I don't think I've seen all of the movies, but I know the stab movies are the meta movies based on what happened. I understand all that. The characters in the stab movies are the same characters as in what happened, right? Like Dewey's characters in the stab movie, right?
Only for the first 3 stab movies. It was established in the 4th one that Sydney threatened to sue the company, and that's why they started going with like other storylines where I think they commented on time travel.
Yeah.
But are they in it? Because they made a mention of the fact that like David Arquette, and they leave his van or whatever, his trailer, and they're like, oh, he was so much better in the stab movies. And I'm like, wait a minute, was he?
No, they mean the guy playing him.
Thank you. Okay, because I'm like,
they had like young, like
here, relive your trauma on screen.
Yeah, when I think it was Stab 4 or Scream, was it 3 or 4 where they did like they actually had the sound stage and like
that's Scream 3. They did the sound stage in Scream 3, yeah.
And it was funny because they would be like living their lives and going through the Scream issues, but while they were filming Stab 4 or Stab 3, so like their characters and then who was playing their characters were working like side by side in this.
Yeah.
I didn't think that they had enough of a valid reason to murder the two together. Like, yes, it was like they wanted Scream 8 or Stab 8 was so terrible that we needed to redo it. And we met in a chat room to like discuss how bad it was. And we needed to revamp it because we loved the original so much. And that was funny because it was like kind of going along with this movie. And it's like, we know we're not going to screw this up. We're trying to keep it original, but we know that others are terrible. So I got that part of it, but I was like, I just love everything about this movie. And then they dedicated it to Wes.
I'd like to know what a good reason for murder is. Just
psychosis.
Okay.
Abandonment issues for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Abuse.
Your mother left your father because he was having an affair with the other girl's mom, and so you were growing up with your mom, and so you were trying to take it out on Nev Campbell. Scream 1.
Right. A little thing on the bottom of the screen says Screenfish does not endorse the practice of murder.
Abandonment issues lead to murder. That's what Screenfish is telling you.
The opinions expressed do not reflect the values of Screenfish.net.
You come from a broken family, you will become a murderer.
This video might be triggering for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
It sounds rambly and ridiculous, but I just like freaking loved it. Like I was so happy and I was so glad, and I hope they never make another one again because they're in pre-production for Scream 6.
Yeah,
that's not okay. January. Why do people have to do that? Like you perfected it. You ended it in a perfect way. I don't care about money. I'm going to start murdering.
Making the movies.
I'm going to be like, Scream 6 was horrible and I'm going to murder everyone. Anyways, great movie. You got to see it.
Alan?
How do I follow that?
Rambling. This is me at the end of the day. That
was brilliant. No, I thought it was amazing. Okay, so Scream. Okay, so we'll talk about the title. It's been done. Halloween, Final Destination 4, did the same thing, but that was an awful waste of money. But Scream, oh my goodness. Oh, it was so fun marathoning these movies to end with the new one. I feel like it helped bring it more together, but my opinion, it was good. Don't get me wrong. Like parts of it were good. Killers were predictable. They literally tell you who they are, like within the first 15 minutes of the movie in a sarcastic way, which I felt like you're already watching the movie and suspecting everybody. That was like the worst thing you could do. So I didn't like that part, but I mean, the nostalgia was definitely there. Lots of references to all the different films, really, in general. I mean, with cameos and obviously references like kitchen scenes or the house, for example. Legacy characters, Randy's sister, the niece and nephew, kind of playing on it.
Judy.
Dewey's death scene, it was time. It really was. It was kind of time for him, I don't think any of them thought they were going to make it past the first or second film anyway. So, I mean, in reality, after Randy was killed, you thought, oh, it's fair game. They can all get taken out. But I mean, they all just kept coming back. So, so Dewey dying, it was, I like that they said it was an honor because I mean, that's 5 movies in, he's been around since the beginning. He's Deputy Dewey, right? So, I mean, it was a good death. I personally think it was gory. It was, dramatic. It was intense. I liked that aspect. I liked the twist with Billy's daughter, her illegitimate daughter. I kind of feel like everyone probably suspected her to be the killer right off the bat, just by revealing it, maybe because they probably think, oh, well, why not? Serial killer tendencies, maybe it's influenced by genetics, who knows? And then, bam, you think automatically it's her. But I mean, I don't know. I liked it. I liked that part. The hallucinations with Billy himself doing the whole anti-aging thing on what's his face. It worked. He didn't look exactly as cute as he did in the first movie, but I mean, no. Like they did as best as they could. I like that too. Gail. I mean, watching the first one, then comparing it to the, like, obviously, like, of course she's going to age. I mean, we're all aging, literally. So I mean, I'm not going to look this good in 20 years, probably. So I mean, that's inevitable. But I mean, looks aside, I mean, like, she's played this character for so long, and she does it like the exact perfect way each time. So I mean, like, she has that attitude. She has that, she's still trying to do her job kind of thing. But I mean, like, still playing on the love story with Dewey here and there. That was cute. I'm surprised they got split up. I was a little bit surprised at that one, considering in the fourth one, it was all about them being together for 10 years. So I thought, hope for Dewey and Gail, When
did they get divorced in real life? Was it after that?
Okay, so they got divorced filming the fourth one.
Yeah.
Okay, so it shouldn't be that much of a surprise.
So no, but I mean, like, these are characters, not their real life. I mean, obviously,
yes, Steve.
Like, to separate, they're human beings. Yes, they can sleep with each other if they want to, but I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at the characters.
Yeah, we're looking at Dewey
and Gail, their comedic love story that you just followed along. Although her hair was the best in the second one, I will say that.
Yes.
Honestly, hairstyles aside, for all the Scream movies, love her hair in the second one. We already know there was an issue with the third one, and that wasn't her fault. That was her hairdresser's fault. So everyone should just stop throwing, the bangs.
I couldn't even barely.
It was a bad haircut, and they already had to film. So I feel like they just went with it. Was it clip-ons? I thought it was a bad haircut that went wrong.
I think I looked it up. I'm going to confirm, but
confirm now. Cause I mean, I know, I thought it was
people
a haircut, and then
this.
I was like, you know what? That's not her fault. Like, honestly, she's doing a movie, like, stop ripping into her hair. Like, she knows. But the fourth one, she looked great, obviously. And then I loved in this one as well. Like, she looked really good too. Like, she looked respectable.
Yes. So I remember they were cut on set. Courtney went on to explain that the fake bangs were placed incorrectly on her head by someone on set, but she had to roll with it.
Yeah.
Horrific.
I mean, you're recording a scene and okay, it doesn't look like you want it to. She did the best that she could with it, So I mean, but the movie itself,
still her.
The movie itself had its faults. I mean, don't get me wrong. The third one really did suck. But the fourth one kind of really brought it back. This one, considering it's another 10 years later, like, literally, make me feel older. Why don't you? It was all right. I get iffy when it comes to reboots, because it's either they nail it or they won't, and there's, a lot of movies that they've, failed, and a lot of movies that they've done well with. So, I mean, like, it's a 50-50 in my eyes. So in this case, was it respectful enough in, for the legacy of Wes? Definitely. Brilliant. I like the tie-in. Like I said, I like the twist. The killers themselves could have been better. I will say that. Because again, predictable, but whatever. I still went with it. I enjoyed it. It's just, I think out of all of them, my favorite would be 4.
What?
Yeah. Aside from the original, of course.
4 was when she lived in the woods, right?
So no, it was a 3.
What was 4 again?
4 was when she was doing her book tour. Like, I liked the twist with the cousin.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I felt like that one was, like, really paying homage to the original, whereas this one does too, but I felt like that one paid homage a little bit more than this one did. Because I mean, like, in the fourth one, you did, like, the replay with, like, the beginning scene from the original with the phone call and the, he's tied up and then he stabs her after, and you're like, oh, twist. But I mean, still, like, I just felt like that one kind of was a little bit more of a different feel than this one. This one didn't give me the same exact excitement. I did watch the trailer, but I mean, every time I see a trailer of a rebooted movie, I go, oh, there's another one. And so I'm like, okay, which means there's probably 2 more behind it. So I may as well just kind of wait and see what they're doing with it. Although I will say the survivors were 5. Just throwing that out there, and it's a 5th movie, so I wonder if that's something or not. And the death total was 8, which could be a reference to Stab 8. I don't know, because they were trying to reboot it all together.
Wow, you really did dive into this. I'm impressed.
It had less deaths than because the first one only had 7. The second and third only had 10. 4 had 11, and then this one, like I said, was 8.
But they were gory.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I feel like obviously with the times and stuff like that, like you're gonna get worse and worse. But there was one where she like stabbed him through the cheek.
Oh yeah, when she like went right through. That was good. I enjoyed that actually. But she went crazy. But he shouldn't have been able to talk with the amount of times he was stabbed. I will say that. Like she stabbed him like a million times, and she's going crazy. And then all of a sudden he's like, what about the movie? And it was just like, how are you talking right now? Like
that's dead. What matters most in a film like this, Alan, is the science. That's
your vocal cord should have been slashed by now, buddy.
Yeah.
Like,
I do think Dewey's death was a good death, and I think like him leaving them in the elevator and like, who cares? Like, let's just go. And he's like, I care. And then he goes and then you see the phone call. Okay, but my question for you is, I rewound it like 3 times. What does the killer say to Dewey as he's dying? Like the phone is down there. It's like, this is I don't know what it was, but there was something that he said, and I tried to rewind it like 3 times and I couldn't do it.
Aside from it's an honor?
He does say it's an honor.
Yeah.
Oh, to murder him?
Yeah.
Okay, then that's what he said.
Oh, yeah, I wrote that down.
I was like, this is important. What is he saying?
Yeah, he was, by the way, he was death number 5. So I don't know if that was supposed to be something too. I thought that was kind of interesting because I was like, it's the 5th movie. He gets to be the 5th kill, and this is the
6th movie. Oh, it is the 5th movie.
5th movie.
I'll stay.
You're ready for the 6th one already, apparently.
Like, come on, guys. Like, what is it? What is it with American? Yes, okay, whatever. It's money. But based on British like TV shows and stuff, they have a wrap up. Like they have an end, right? Like.
You're right. The 25 James Bond films really prove that.
TV. I mean, don't think about
TV
Halloween movies. 9 is it 9?
Oh
god. No, I'm thinking like there are other countries that will end a series and it is done. Okay, why do we have to? That was a beautiful ending, a beautiful wrap up. They're gonna go live their lives. Everyone will be fine. Just be done with it. It's like Stranger Things for me.
Well, no, they want it to be like a staple. Like our staple, if you think about it, was Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, and Halloween. So Ghostface came in the 90s.
Worse.
So Ghostface came in the 90s. Chucky kind of developed in the 80s and the 90s, and then obviously continued from there.
It got so much worse.
That could be, it's debatable. But I'm just saying that, like, new legacy movies would probably be now Chucky, Ghostface, and what was the other one I said? My old age is kicking in. Halloween, right? Like reboot, like Halloween is just like, they did it. They're doing well with it. Candyman, I guess that could be thrown in there because same thing. But they also, the good thing I love about these movies, they always make reference to horror movies in their horror movies.
Yes.
So I mean, like, in the original Scream movie, they have Halloween in the background. And then whereas in Scream 4, they had Shaun of the Dead, Yep. And then you have like in this one, you had 90s, like Dawson's Creek was like a little clip thrown in there, which I thought was funny because I was just like, of course, naturally. And then the stab movies were focused, I think, in the 4th one more.
Yeah, they were
obviously mentioned in this one as well. But yeah, like, it's just they're good at bringing those elements in to remind you of like for example, the boyfriend getting his arm slashed. That's the 2nd one. Yeah, they did that, right? So I mean, like, and then I liked the garage scene. I actually kind of hoped that the killer was going to be the new Randy girl.
Yeah, right.
I was hoping it was her when she's like, no, I'm the killer. I was like, I'm like, is it? And then she's like, oh, I'm just kidding. And I'm like, no, don't be kidding. I actually want you to be the killer because I actually liked her better as the killer than the other one. The one that got set on fire, she had it coming. I'm really glad Gail punched her when she did. I will say that.
I did not care for her. Like, I didn't care for her. I was like, good, set her on fire.
The names I had a hard time keeping up with. I will say that there's been so many. I mean, doing the marathon, after a while, you lose track of who is like, the main ones, but I mean, like all the new ones, you're like, oh yeah, who are you again? Oh yeah, right. You're a girlfriend of somebody. And then you're like, okay. Yeah. But I like where they're going with it. Obviously I hope they don't ruin it. I feel like, again, they're trying to like, continue it like, Halloween and, all the other staples and try and, keep it fresh. But I mean, like, I do like that they switched the narrative to, a newer cast rather than it only be focused on Sydney, because I was expecting a family element. There was a family element, just not Sydney's family element. So
yeah. Because that was number 4, right? It was Sydney's.
So, well, yeah, the cousin brother was in the third one. The second one, it was Billy's mother. And then the first one was obviously Billy and Stu. So, but I mean, I like the second one a lot too, though, because, Laurie Metcalf as a killer was hilarious. Right? I'm just looking at Aunt Jackie from Roseanne, playing a killer. And again, brilliant move. But that's what I mean. Like, that's what makes the whole series as a whole so great is, you can always fall back into it and still find something that you enjoy about it, whether it's stupid or made fun of or, done so many times. It's like, well, if you really think about it, Scream is like the essence of what's been done a million times.
Yeah, and it keeps that, even to the point where I had the nostalgia of like when the car shines the light on the guy who's like peeing on the wall.
Oh, that made me think of Christine.
Oh, the music playing in that car, that was the music.
Oh, that's the theme song. The iconic Scream theme song. Yes, I was going to touch on that too.
I did like you talked about a few of the nods there, but I mean, they drive down Elm Street. The kid's name is Wes. Their last name is Carpenter. Mm-hmm. There are all sorts of little throws throughout the film.
How much did you watch, Stephen? How many times did you take the dog for a walk during it?
Yeah,
I saw it in theater. I couldn't take the dog for a walk in the middle of it. Okay, so all right, legit. Let me share my thoughts here, because I don't hate this franchise. I actually really respect what this franchise has brought into the horror genre, especially when it first came out. Because the whole point of it first came out, like, we think of it, we say, oh, that's so 90s. The 90s was that one of that generations, the sort of the kickstart to say, let's look back on these and recognize the tropes we've already set up in our own genres. So they were like, the 90s were sort of the first, I think, maybe I'm wrong, feels like the first one to really deliberately go meta on anything. Forget, just with the horror. So I've seen a few of these. I respect what they bring. This one, I respect. It was funny, the way they play with the rules and everything. I actually think is really interesting, because all the things they talk about with the re-quels, it's all true, and it's not just about horror films.
But literally the plot of the movie.
But it's not just about horror films. No, but I mean, like they're talking about Star Wars. They're talking about
I have that
Jurassic World. They're talking about every major franchise, every major franchise that has done this in the last 5 to 6 years has done exactly this. We want to get that IP back. Well, we got to bring in the new characters, but bring back some old characters for the legacy. But we're going to start bumping them off one by one so that we can focus on the young people and stuff. So their commentary was not just about the horror genre. That being said, I will say this too. You talk about being predictable. I guess the boyfriend, because they tell you that right off the bat, but it's not like I settled on it, and they give you it's not like I knew, okay, well, this is why it was going to be. So when it happened, it wasn't like I was shocked, but I was like, oh, because I can't say I knew it, because I had 6 different suspects all the way through the movie. Right. But in the last 12 hours, I've seen 2 movies about murder. And this is not the one I'd watch again.
What are the other 2?
Yeah. No, this is one of the 2. The other one, I saw Death on the Nile.
I haven't seen that yet.
Poirot.
Yes, and
I love him.
You can tell the writing. Now, mind you, it was written by Agatha Christie in 1937.
Different genres, yeah.
Totally different genres. But I mean, you can tell the skill in writing on a film like that as opposed to this.
Listen, I don't come for skill with writing. I come for excitement.
And that gets me to my first point. This was the thing I didn't like about the movie, okay? This is what I didn't like, is they literally dump on any horror movie that is not a straight up slasher flick. They dump on it.
Well, they talked about how Chucky was terrible, and that's a slasher flick.
Also, Black Christmas and Flatliners.
Black Christmas, yeah, like
they celebrate those. They don't say how they love those. Those were
the ones they were.
No, those were the failed adaptions. Yeah,
they were like boo, and I adaptations.
But they love the franchises. When they're talking about horror in the opening of the film, she's talking about her favorite films as like The Babadook, It Follows. Elevated horror.
Oh, current horror. No, she was talking
elevated
about elevated
horror. She calls it. Yes, a current
elevated horror. I don't know if I'd call it elevated.
That's how they refer to it. Elevated horror.
Because there's a thinking.
What's this generation's nickname for themselves?
I don't know, but it has nothing to do with generation. That's what they're calling it. And they're talking about like Get Out and all this stuff.
Gen Z.
Oh, you're talking about that? Oh yeah, they're Gen Z. But you see,
they're Gen Z. Is that what they are now?
Flat out says. That's where we are. Boring. He says that sounds boring. Where's the thrills and the jumps and the scares? And I thought, hold on.
I got scared of the Babadook.
But you see, I would love to know what you guys thought of that, because to me, as I was watching it, I admit this, that's what I prefer. The horror films I've loved in the last few years, like truly loved, are Get Out, Us.
Yeah.
I even really liked Halloween 2 when we talked about it, because it felt like it had something to say.
You don't want to hear anything. Just give me the slashing. I believe that's what I said about Halloween. I know that people are terrible. I know that there's a mob mentality. I know that people are willing to kill someone before they even hear what they have to say when the guy in Halloween. And then I felt yucky. And I'm like, no, just kill for no reason. I'm here for entertainment and to get away from the world. I don't want your commentary in my horror movies. Like, but I do enjoy, like, I do enjoy those movies that you mentioned, and I do love a good like psychological thriller and stuff like that. But when you're going into Halloween and you're going into like and they all had their own little messages and stuff like that, but when you're going into slasher films, you're going into it knowing it's a slasher film. You're not saying like, when you go into like a Jordan Peele movie, you're like, this is going to be artistic, it's going to be intelligent, and it's going to be fun.
And psychologically fucked.
Yeah, and psychologically, it's going to mess with you. And I'm looking for that, and I want that. When I see Scream, I want you to give me nostalgia, I want to give me murder, and I want you to wrap it up in under 2 hours.
Don't push your luck.
Right?
See, I think maybe that's one of the things, like I said, I appreciate what this franchise brings. I really do. I'm not hating on it.
Yeah.
I came out of this and I thought that was kind of fun. It was kind of fun.
Fun. Yes.
I didn't like it for that reason. I felt like it should be smarter than that because it started out smarter than the other ones.
But it continued its same level of smartiness.
Well, no, because it was less deaths. I mean, if they really wanted to outdo it, then they literally could have been like killing somebody like every 5 minutes. Like every 5 minutes, it was like, you know, a conversation and then, you know, and like, you know.
Wait. Your argument to make it smarter is to kill more people on screen. Is that what
make it? Yeah, I am. I am implying that there should be a little bit more death.
You have it written down somewhere. I know you do. That they were literally talking about this. They were talking about these kind of movies.
They were. That's right.
it's the classic like whodunit slasher like comedy kind of thing, right? Like meta. And they actually brought that up in the movie. And I feel like I know that probably everyone watching is probably like, the girl is so intelligent and like you can't handle a smart movie. I love smart movies. Do you remember The Others with Nicole Kidman?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
brilliant.
I liked that one.
Movie. Yeah, brilliant. I love it.
Are you mad? I am your daughter.
Yeah. But like that was brilliant. Great twist, great everything. And I loved it. But when I'm going in for an old time like nostalgia thing, I'm not looking to learn something. I want to see my favorites. I want to see the legacies. I want to see the death, and I want to have fun.
I guess. And you know what?
They did that with the stab movies. Remember when they had the barn party? I'm wagging my finger at you. What's happening? Okay. At the barn parties where they were doing the stab marathons, everyone was having fun in there. And when they went to the movie theater in the second one, and they were in there and everyone was dressed up in costumes and cosplaying, it was fun. It wasn't about the horror.
Okay, it's funny. There's even a line on this, and it's a throwaway line, but it stood out to me because I'm like, okay, I guess that's what this is. The aunt or whatever it is, the woman, I didn't recognize her, but she was one of the old characters that walked in. She was like the aunt.
The girl from
Randy's sister, Martha.
Yeah, sure, that's her. Yeah. So she comes in and she goes, "All right, kids, have fun," and she leaves. And I thought to myself, okay, that's a pretty normal thing to say in that situation, but it felt sort of accented to like, this is what the movie is.
Yeah.
But I still don't like, I sat there and I'm watching and I'm like, yes, I get it. It can be a ride. It can be fun. But it just felt like such a step back from like the type of horror that we've seen in the last few years that I've liked. Again, I'm just talking about what I've liked because we all know I'm not there for the killings. And if I'm not there to see someone get a knife through their throat or whatever it is that they're doing, I'm there for the mystery, but I'm there for it to have something to say. Now, ironically, I can't say that that's fully the case. I like John Wick. And I was thinking about this.
That's
I'm like,
an action movie. That is
it's
totally
an action
different.
movie.
But it's just action, right?
But and I'm not gonna lie. I'm there to see the guy see the horse kick him in the face. I'm there for the stunts. I admit it. So I'm not saying that
action death is different than horror death. Horror death is supposed to have that dramatic. But he's saying the
fluffiness
aspect.
of it.
Oh,
right?
I
Like,
see.
you're just there for the mindless like movie. It's like you don't get on a roller coaster to learn something. Right? You go to a museum, you go to an art gallery. So I would say the Scream franchise is the Wildebeest at Canada's Wonderland. So you're like flying off and you're laughing and stuff like that. But if you want to go and see Jordan Peele
Wrong
and his
audience.
amazing work, then go to an art gallery or a museum because it's both brilliant. It's just different moods.
But why can't we have a roller coaster in an art gallery?
I feel for the screaming art past the Monet.
Did you see that? That was the Venus de Milo. No. Right.
I think with
now that's a museum movies, I'd
go to. Okay, I like being surprised, and I like being like feeling that intenseness, like. The Descent, for example, would be a good example of this. You know, the entire time you're watching, it's like this intense, what's going to happen kind of feeling. The only time Scream ever gave me that feeling was the very first scene of their very first movie, with Drew Barrymore. I mean, that death scene alone will just, nothing can beat it. I watch it every time and I go, you can't do this any better. Like you really can't. But I mean, like, because you're comparing it to movies like Get Out or Us, as examples, I mean, like, it's true. I get what you're saying. Obviously you're expecting it to be kind of like up there, which means like it has to like really, really like kind of surprise you and get you. And you're right. With this movie, it didn't really have that surprise effect. So I would say that, you're right. It's kind of a step back. Whereas obviously with the fourth one, I wasn't really suspecting the cousin throughout the entire movie until she revealed herself. I didn't see it at all. Like I felt like, oh, that was really good writing. You really surprised me in that one. This one, there was no surprise though. So I mean, like because again, when you watch these movies, I don't trust anybody. They can say they're innocent. I'm still thinking that you might be a killer. So
I blamed everyone throughout the entire
Scream, you're already on guard with Scream because you know already that everyone's a suspect. You know the rules. You know everything. So like you have to basically kind of keep that in mind when you're watching it. So that's why I mean, like, I feel like the scare factor kind of gets reduced at that point because now you don't really care. You're waiting for the death. Yes. But I mean, like, you're not going to be really scared by it. You'll just be like, oh my God, okay, this person just got killed. Okay, awesome.
You're looking for clues.
You're trying to figure out like, why did this person die next? Or why did this, why was this person number 3? Why was this person number 4? My question was like, you would think in a horror movie, there would be more death because usually they're supposed to be, but maybe that's the point. Maybe they don't have a lot of deaths on purpose because you're already expecting it.
But again, this to me, it's not about the surprises. I want those. It's not about the twists. It's not about I want those. I love a good murder mystery. I love a good whodunit. Like I said, Death on the Nile had a blast. It was a hoot. Knives Out. A hoot.
Oh, Knives. I love it.
Knives Out is one of my favorite movies in like the last 5 years. I love Knives Out. It is a blast. But what this movie now, again, maybe it's probably because I'm old. That this movie literally sort of takes a dump on different movies that are either that don't fit into their expectations, like the elevated horror thing. And then there's even a line where the guy says, I've never seen Gone with the Wind either, but I don't consider it a gaping hole in my cinematic education. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, that's fair. Yeah. But dude, like,
but in that they're also tongue in cheek making fun of themselves, right? Like,
yeah.
Half the Scream movies are them making fun of the Scream.
No, I get it.
No, half the Scream movies are making fun of like just horror in general. Because I mean, like, like running upstairs instead of going out the front door, or like grabbing a weapon ever. Like thinking, you've lived in this house your entire life and you haven't figured out how you would escape if this were to happen. Right. Like you don't already know where everything is in your house. You just forget and you're like, I'll just run around in circles and then eventually he'll get me and then that will be it. And, more of a reference to Sarah Michelle Gellar in Scream 2. Because again, like all she did was throw shit at him. But I mean, it probably took everything in her not to kick his ass, but that's more of a Buffy reference.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Buffy, how you've fallen.
But she did I Know What You Did Last Summer that same year, I believe. Yes. Or right after, something like that. Wait, no, she did that's right. She did. Scream 2 and I Know What You Did Last Summer came out the same year, yes. I checked that just to be sure. So yes, I know that. But I feel like watching all of the movies, they had nods for all the films in the next one. Like they always did it. So I mean, like for example, the third death in Scream 3, for example, was named Sarah. Person that was the third death in Scream 2 was Sarah Michelle Gellar. So that could be a nod at, the name, thing kind of thing or whatever. But then there's lots of references to a lot of the deaths were, I guess, stabbings from the previous movies, kind of readapting that again in each one in different ways. Some were different, some weren't, but there were a lot of little references there that kind of tied in, like that I noticed where I'm like, oh, that's the second movie. Oh, that's the third movie. Oh, original right here. Like I was just like, okay, they're bringing it in, and then you have characters from the fourth movie, which kind of was a little better to tie that in, they didn't forget about them, so I just thought it was, interesting in, that sense, but I wouldn't necessarily ever classify Scream as a scary film.
Well, it's just
not getting any Oscar nods.
You think?
No.
But I'm saying, do you know how? Okay, so like McDonald's, follow me here.
Okay.
Every McDonald's around the world makes their Big Macs exactly the same. So if you eat it, and I've like watched
that's a true statement to my understanding.
Right. So if you're eating McDonald's in New York and you're eating McDonald's in Japan, you're tasting McDonald's. It's like this home. They want you to think it's like home. That's what the Scream franchise is in these slasher things. It's like the McDonald's of movies. Like, do we need it every day? No. Do we need to eat better? Yes. But do we need to sometimes just go back to our like favorite thing and get like a really good greasy burger and just enjoy it? Yes. And that's what Scream is.
That may be the most intelligent comparison, real world comparison to this franchise. And here's the thing. If you eat McDonald's too much, you throw up.
Exactly. You need to balance it.
And I don't know. Like, there were things about the movie, I think, that were I mean, the movie is it's well done for what it is. I think
that Big Macs with lots of ice in your Coke.
Yeah, I do like the ice in my Coke. I do like the fact that they kind of acknowledge here too the fact that Gail takes responsibility for creating the villain. I was like, because, you know, the culture of celebrity and that, but the franchise has always done that. So it wasn't something really new. I guess it was new for her to own up about the book. But I love the line. I liked the line where she said, you know, I know what I'm going to write about, and it's not this. This guy can die in anonymity.
Yes, I love that.
I thought that was a good line. I like that line. But I mean, McDonald's is right. McDonald's is right. And you
know what you're getting when you go in there, and it tastes good and it's always the same, but you can't eat it every day.
No, I don't know. I don't know if it tasted good, but that's not a story. What did you think? You know, I'd like to talk about this a little bit, you know, before we run out of time, but the idea of toxic fandom. We've sort of talked about it here a little bit already, touched on this idea. Fan expectations, that's sort of a theme that comes up, but they sort of just bring it up at the end of the movie. But I was wondering how you think something like that plays with a franchise like this.
Well, what I think is, because like the whole world lives in the open now, if that's a right perception of things, I guess. I mean, the way technology has advanced since the 90s, I mean, you went, you know, from, you know, tiny little cameras that you had to buy to, you know, it's already in your screen. So, I mean, you know, I need to think on this one for a minute.
Yeah, you're right though. Like, when I'm working with my students who are 11, 12, 13, they are constantly in groups. They're in Discord and Reddit, and well, it's not as much Reddit for them, but now the big thing is Discord. And you can sit there, and they've told me that they will do hours online about fan fiction, and they will do like so many discussions, and just, you're right, you're living basically as you're doing things. People are commenting on them, and people are crazy right now, right? Like, look at our world. Look how people take tidbits of information and start giant, like, white supremacist backed things. Like, you start out with this like little cool thing where in the second movie they had the cinema club, right? Like,
yeah. Oh no, it's the fourth one.
Or fourth one, yeah. Where they're sitting and they're just in a classroom and they're just discussing films and they're discussing horror. Where here it's like you're basically waiting to get ripped apart, and people get so, and because of the internet, and I see it in my students, the addiction and the feeling of self-worth and the feeling of self like worth and appreciation and like connection that younger people are getting now just from these groups and these talking groups, and they're meeting people, they're adding them to different chats. You don't know who these people are. You don't know what's going on. But yeah, I do feel like people in the world are getting more like, you owe us, like, we've supported you and we like paid to see all your movies, and you're just going to destroy it like this, and really just go and attack. You see it. They attack the actors, the writers, the directors. They think because they're famous, they owe us for making them famous, you know? So like all of the stalkers and like the people who are doing that with celebrities, it's so true. And I'm going to go into child and youth care work, but for kids who are feeling alone and that they've been abandoned and they only find their families online or their chosen families online, they're willing to risk it all. They're willing to go out there. And we've seen the negative consequences. Like, look at the TikTok killer, like a 14-year-old girl who murdered someone on TikTok.
What?
And is now spent,
I didn't hear about this.
Yeah. And is now spending the rest of her life in prison for a brutal murder to get views on TikTok.
Well, the need for it to be followed these days seems to be it's gotten a little too far. I mean, it went from, I used to look at Facebook like an open diary, and then Twitter came out, and then it was like, oh, here we go. And it just begins. And then, everyone feeds into it, and then Instagram comes in, and then, WhatsApp and Snap and TikTok. And it's like, if you don't keep up, then it's like, I don't know. But I mean, like, as far as the obsession, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like, because we're living in more of an open world, I think that, it's just, that's why.
Right? I think it's all about likes and demand and a feeling of my voice is valid. And if it's not heard, then I have to go to an extreme.
Like, look at the Snyder Cut. Like, okay, although, yes, we already know that the Snyder Cut is better. At least, I personally think, because it was what the director originally envisioned. So we know the story and how that played out or whatever. But the example of it would be the fact that this movement came together and everyone just band together to like push and push and push and push. And finally the studio was like, oh my God, no one's going to watch our movies if we don't do this. So here's some money, finish it. So that's basically what they did. So, I mean, it's kind of like giving fans what they want, but by giving the fans what they wanted, now it's this, they've created what's that word? They've created a
monster.
No, a precedence. You can say it. So they created that, and because of that, now everyone thinks that if they complain enough about it, it'll get done. So I mean, it's the same thing with TV shows. When you hear of a cancellation, everyone's like, why would you do that? Oh my God, my life is over. Like, I need to see what happens. And then they like push and they push and they push. And then if they feel like giving in, then they will, and if not, they'll give them like a special or like a 1 hour, close up to try and tie it all in or whatever in that. But I mean, by giving in and doing that, you're asking for it at that point, because obviously not necessarily asking for it. I mean, obviously I don't recommend the stalking and killing and all that other stuff, but I'm just saying that, like, hearing. No, I'm just kidding.
Once again, the opinions expressed are those you're not
I don't know, Steve, you keep having us back, so we're going to spread them.
True. It's true.
I'm just saying that I personally think that, if you keep giving into these fan needs, then I don't think that anyone's ever going to be satisfied, because there's always going to be somebody that's going to watch it that's going to disagree and think, no, I didn't agree with that, or I don't agree with this ending, or I don't agree with how they introduced this, or, their reference or whatever. I mean, that could be said about any specific movie that each of you have seen that you would probably think, compared to its original that's been done now, whether or not you liked it or hated it, i.e. The Craft, it happens.
I'll say right.
I had to throw that in there. The Craft was an amazing movie. Its sequel, let's just not talk about it.
There is no sequel. No.
See, that's a better answer.
There are pros and cons to this. I think on the one hand, because of you talk about things being so open, I think that there's a great space for conversation, but I think we lock in so much more easily as well on these things, and who owns the story. Like, you know what? If excuse me. You brought up the Snyder Cut with Justice League. That's a great example, because now that's a unique example, because you had a situation where the director, it's not just that he didn't get his own way. It was that, literally I think there was a death in the family. He had to pull out. So the studio messed with it. And then so it was a bit of a complicated thing. But you're right. The fans band together, said, this is what we want. And they got it. And the next thing is, we want to keep doing that, because that's what we want.
Right.
I saw a meme the other day, and I thought it was really interesting. And it had Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland with their arm around each other. And it said MCU and their fans. And then it had one that said DC and their fans. And it has a picture of Superman holding Batman by the throat against a wall, or something like this.
Yeah.
But this idea of who owns the story, because you're right, like there are certain things fans want to see that they connect with, because we connect through story. I really think that. But it is interesting. Like this one sort of touches on that. I don't think it does it very, very well, but it does. This idea that they, you know, if you're gonna make more stab movies, we want to see it made the way that we want to see it, you know. And if you don't, then it's trash. You know, there's no middle ground anymore. It's either the best thing you've ever seen or the worst thing you've ever seen. As a Star Wars fan, I saw that in the last 2 Star Wars movies. Episode 8, fans that wanted something new loved it. The fans that wanted nostalgia hated it. And then in 9, they went back the other way, and both sides flipped because it's fascinating.
I have a cat meowing. It's okay.
She's talking.
Goodbye.
The McDonald's of the horror franchise. The end.
That's it.
Cat and Alan get cut. Done.
I cannot top that analogy. Oh man.
But that's what it is. That's what you go for, what you want. When I want an action film, I'll go for action.
Yeah.
I still don't think that's an excuse for a film not to have a brain. And I feel like this movie didn't or has a type of brain, but literally go with me on this. It's smartly written for what it is. And then at the same time, it literally says anything that thinks it's smarter than that is stupid. And that's how I felt about this film. It's like, you like that? That stuff's dull. Don't bother with that crap. And that's what I didn't like.
Do you think don't you see? We start fighting. Don't you see? But that's like a tongue-in-cheek Barb, right? Like it's not like literally criticizing these movies.
I don't know if it is. The only reason I would say that it isn't is because at the end she said, I still prefer the Babadook.
Yeah, see?
That was the only reason.
You know, I was kind of hoping that the mask would be metal.
Why?
Because I think they showed it in one of the stab movies in one of the, I think it was the 4th one or something like that.
The flame-throwing one?
Yeah, the flame-throwing. That looked fun. I was kind of disappointed they didn't kind of take in that a little bit and actually like spoop up the mask a little bit, make it metal maybe. You know, maybe it does light on fire or something.
Maybe magnet face. They could put some fridge magnets on there.
Face?
Well, they could have played on that too. You know, Scary Movie 6.
All right. On that note, we should
on Magnet Face.
Magnet Face.
We should screen it or skip it. Scream, screen it or skip it.
If you have any nostalgia in your body, screen it.
Yes, I agree. Screen it for that aspect only.
Yes.
And to finish the series because you've already watched 4.
Yeah, you've seen 4. What are you waiting for?
That's a good line.
You've seen 4. What are you waiting for?
Some of us have seen 4 in one day, and to own it on Blu-ray, and to own it.
Well, I have it on DVD. I didn't do the
Blu-ray.
Oh yeah,
sorry, I have it on DVD. Yeah, no, you need to screen it because it's fun. It's a great time, and you'll laugh. And you'll see Courtney Cox be an
awesome character and kicking ass.
Be a badass bee.
Yeah. Beep. Throw that bubble in there.
Just the black bar, please.
Black bar
I think she was
off audio.
What?
The black bar doesn't cut off audio.
That's okay.
You can add that in, Artemis.
You can't say I said it if I didn't see my lips move. Yeah, screen it. Don't be a Steve. Screen it.
Yeah.
Don't be a Steve. Yeah, screen it.
Yeah, because it's a skip it for me. And I wouldn't. It is.
But you didn't see all the others. You're not respecting the franchise. If you respect the franchise,
I've seen 60% of the franchise. I've seen 1, 3, and 5.
Like saying
you're missing 2 though, and 2 was awesome.
I don't know. Look, the movie's fine. If you want to go see a movie,
We're changing his mind as we go.
I loved it. Screen it.
Yeah, this is the best movie I saw. This is the best movie I've seen in the theater last night at 10 p.m.
You saw last night at 10 p.m.?
I did.
Where was I?
I don't know the answer to that. I was by myself. Well, there are other people in the theater.
But you were alone.
Alone and sad.
Don't be a loner and sad.
I'm sorry, I've been watching that commercial on breakfast television of that I'm so lonely so much that that's all I kept hearing in my head.
No, I mean,
don't be lonely and sad. Watch the movie.
I am fine with people that say they went with it and loved it. There were things I liked about it. You know, it's a skip it for me because I thought that I was hoping for. No, maybe I was just ticked. I was going to say I was hoping for more. I was just ticked at them for taking a dump on all the type of horror movies that I do like, and then throwing Gone with the Wind out the window for no reason. I just
You're not a crotchety old man. See Scream. If you are, skip it.
I just thought it was
in a sweater.
I'm not saying it's trash.
In a sweater.
In a sweater. It's a nice sweater.
It is
Steve, you're rocking that dad look for sure.
I am a dad. I got 2 kids. I'm not saying it's trash. I'm just saying it's not. It's not for me. I said screen it when we did Halloween.
You did. You're right. You get that one. That one.
Like,
even though you didn't watch the original one.
Yeah.
Hey, kids.
I saw that new Halloween movie, but I didn't watch the original. But that's okay because I'm cool with that one, and it's only the 9th or 10th version.
Listen, I never claim to be a horror expert. All right, I just know what I like and what I don't like.
Okay, Steve.
Thank you to you both. I always love chatting with you about anything, but especially horror.
I'm leaving highly offended.
Why are you offended?
I've seen you eat McDonald's and enjoy it.
You owe me a Big Mac.
I think that's where you lost me because it was so painfully accurate that's where you lost me when it was done. I was like, nope. Right. You're right. That's what this is.
You can shame eat McDonald's in your car. You can shame love this movie.
I ate McDonald's this week. And
there you go.
And I felt terrible. Yeah. I felt terrible after I ate it. This podcast awesome. Not brought to you by McDonald's.
Not brought to you. But could it be?
But it could be McDonald's.
Just add some McChicken sauce. You'll be good.
You're just
bring
drinking.
Back the mini pizzas.
You're watching Scream and drinking the McChicken sauce in the theater alone.
I know, with a straw.
I gotta reel this in.
All right.
Fine.
Oh, guys, I absolutely love chatting with you. Thank you so much. For you at home, you can, if you still want to listen to something else from us, you can absolutely find us wherever podcasts are available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Podomatic. If you go to the podcast page on screenfish.net, you can download Fishing for More, which are small group questions to try and get a conversation started about this movie if you decide that you want to see it. You can also like and subscribe to us on YouTube, which has a lot of great interviews as well as current episodes of Screenfish Radio as well. We will be back next week as we're talking about another ghost movie. We're talking about the Tragedy of Macbeth. Which...
Oh no, Alan and I are busy that week.
I think I was there that day already.
I have other friends. I have other friends that'll talk to me about these things. I don't care.
Do you?
No, that's why I go to the movies
what
alone.
What are your thoughts on Macbeth?
Yeah, it's just me and the kid.
Do you think he had it coming?
My 7-year-old telling me, so Jossie, what do you think of Macbeth? But she says double, toil and trouble. What do you think? Anyway.
Double. It's not Tim Horton.
See, now I do want you to talk about Macbeth with me. This podcast not brought to you by
not the people who made Macbeth.
Double cheese croissant.
That's a good one.
Thank you both so much. I absolutely have loved every minute of this. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And for you at home, we started the conversation. This was Screenfish.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
I'm loving it.
Screenfishing it.